What's up guys? It's Lauren San Diego, but my actual name is Lauren Green and I am officially starting a YouTube channel. Woo! And I've been putting this off for a really long time because honestly I am just, feeling that imposter syndrome, that insecurity. But then I've been having really intentional conversations with my friends and my family and with Mike, who is my boyfriend, over the last couple of months and talking about, what do I really want to go for in 2024 and beyond. And honestly, I want to make YouTube videos. I love making long form content. You guys, if you're watching this, you probably have seen, my Instagram or my TikTok, which is why you're here. And I'm so grateful for the support that I have on those channels. But I really wanted to try something new, something that's more long form, something that is, I guess, like a deeper look at what I'm doing, whether it's a vlog or a deeper dive into where I'm traveling or a deeper dive into like who I am as a person, and whether or not this turns into anything bigger like my other channels or whether it stays, super small and it's just kind of like a creative outlet for me to talk about what I'm up to in a format that feels just like more genuine to me and just more in depth to talk about everything. Then that's all good too. I am 29 years old. I turned 30 in actually 2.5 weeks. So January 16th is my birthday. I'm turning 30. Honestly, I'm really excited to turn 30 because I just feel like I'm ready for what's to come in my 30s. I think, and I'll get into this probably on other episodes or other videos that I do, but like I am really, in love with my boyfriend and I just see so much for us in our future together. But then also, professionally with content creation, I just see this becoming a more steadfast piece of my life and more of a focal point versus a side project or a side hustle. And also just loving who I am finally, I think is a big reason why I'm excited for my 30s. I think throughout my not my entire adulthood, but I would say a majority of my adulthood, I've really struggled with, who I am as a person and trying to fit into the mold of what other people wanted me to be, or even what I thought other people wanted me to be, but they literally never said that. And I just made up shit in my head about who I should be. So anyway, if you're watching this and you're in your 20s are going to be a struggle. They're going to be about finding yourself, discovering who you are, what you're interested in, who your real friends are, who are the most important people in your life. And I feel like for me, it's been, for those of you that don't know, I lost my brother when I was 25. I was just about to turn 26. It was about a month before my birthday, right before Christmas. And honestly, and I hope, none of that ever happens to any of you guys in your 20s, but I just feel like your 20s are all about growth and development and discovery. And I'm so lucky that I was given the opportunities that I was given in my 20s to go out and do what I needed to do to figure out who I really want to be. And now that I've found that, I'm really excited to enter into my 30s era. I just feel like I have a better sense of self. I think I have a better head on my shoulders, to be honest. When I was in my 20s, I definitely made a lot of questionable decisions, with peer pressure and like wanting to be cool and just being in college and like trying new things and getting out of my comfort zone. Naturally, there were lots of mistakes made along the way. And so through all those mistakes and through those learning opportunities, I've found that I am really comfortable in my own skin now. There's still, some insecurities that I am working through and working on every day. but I feel so comfortable in my skin because I know that I'm exactly the person that I need to be right now, and that I can be that person that my friends and family and boyfriend need me to be for them. So I just have a really good feeling about my 30s. So super excited, and if anyone is feeling that kind of like dread or, you know, existential crisis as you're entering your either late 20s or you're entering your 30s just like I am, or even if you're, you know, older than that and entering like your mid 30s or even your late 30s into your 40s, we have so much growth and opportunity for growth ahead of us, and I think that's really exciting. And whether that's, you know, personally or professionally or romantically, getting to discover the person that you were intended to be each and every day, and then taking a step back and looking at a decade is really incredible. And so when I look back at, you know, who I was over the last decade, I'm really proud of myself. And I know I'm only going to get more and more proud as each year goes on, because I am just really happy with how my life has turned out. There's been dark times, but also really, really good times. I wanted to start off with just some like general Q&A. So I already talked a little bit about my family, but I have a mom and a dad and an older sister and a younger brother who, like I mentioned, passed away in December of 2019. So that is like my family life. I have a boyfriend who I've been dating for 3.5 years now. We actually met during COVID, September 2020, which is wild to think about, that we met in like the thick of COVID. We met on Hinge, actually. So any of you dating app naysayers, just know that there are good people on those apps. I know most of them are like awful, just like not the right match for you. But if you stick it out, you will find someone. And I know lots of other friends who have also found their people on Hinge or other dating apps. And one of my friends is actually getting married next September with a guy, to a guy that she met on Hinge. And I know lots of other people who are engaged or married because of Hinge. So this isn't a sponsor. This is not a sponsored post for Hinge, but I just felt like I needed to say that. I live in San Diego, California. And a lot of people thought that my name was supposed to be, you know, is Lauren San Diego because I live in San Diego, but that's actually not true. It's supposed to be Lauren San Diego because I am like Carmen San Diego. If you ever watched, I don't know if it was a movie or a TV show, it was definitely a game, and it's called Where in the World is Carmen San Diego? And she would just like travel all over the world. But I think she was actually a bad guy. I'm not a bad guy, but that is where the name came from, is because I love to travel so much. And so honestly, it was like post-college. I did a lot of travel when I was abroad in college, but it was really after I graduated and I started to like get credit card points and flight deals and things like that. I was really into following the points guy for a long time, and I used to book these like crazy trips all over the place, which I will get to in a question that someone asked me a little bit later. But anyway, that's what Lauren San Diego means. And I guess it does work out. I mean, I know it does work out because I, also live in San Diego and I was born and raised here. So people automatically assume that's why my name is the way it is on Instagram and TikTok. But in fact, it has double meaning, I suppose. Like Carmen San Diego, but also the fact that I live here and I share a lot of like local places to go in San Diego. So works out both ways. I'm not mad about it, but that's background on the behind the scenes history of my Instagram handle. I'm trying to think of what else would be, you know, I guess basic information about me. I'm 5'6", not that that really matters, but I'm 5'6". I just dyed my hair kind of reddish. I did the copper cowboy trend, and I absolutely love it. I'm naturally brunette though. I have green eyes. I have 2 dogs, Luna and Olive. They are crazy psychopath little demons, which is why they're not in this room right now, because they would be very disruptive on camera. So that's a little bit about me. And so now I'm gonna go into the questions that you guys asked on my Instagram page. Let me just pull these up. Okay, so the first question is, how did you get into content creation? I got into content creation actually because it was actually an accident. So when COVID was happening, obviously, you know, the world shut down, and there was a lot of, I think for a lot of people, everyone was kind of reevaluating what they wanted to do with their life, whether it was because, you know, they lost a loved one or someone close to them, or if it was because, you know, they were just simply stuck inside all day and they, you know, were having that epiphany and that kind of internal critical thinking kind of moment where they realized, hey, maybe I shouldn't be doing the thing that I'm doing right now because it's not serving me. Or maybe they were just, myself included, in a pattern and just kind of going along with the flow and not really pausing and taking a step back and kind of collecting stock of how they actually felt about how their life was progressing. And so for a lot of people that seemed to be the case. I was included in that. And what I realized is that I saw a lot of people get into TikTok, and at first I wasn't really sure about TikTok. You know, I heard all the rumors about, you know, it's like it's a China app, and you know, it's just a bunch of teenagers doing dances, and I was kind of like, okay, maybe that's not the place for me. But then I had a friend, actually, shout out Morgan, that made a TikTok for basically discovering cool places in New York, and she made this TikTok channel that was really cool. She did a lot of like restaurant content, activity content, all about like living in New York City essentially. And I remember messaging her because I used to live in New York City at the time, and when I did live in New York City, I was super broke. I was like 22 at the time. 22 to 24 is when I lived in New York. And I remember, you know, loving all that there was to do and see and eat and drink in New York, because New York is just like incredible. So I remember messaging her and talking to her about it and being like, I love what you're doing on TikTok. I'm kind of thinking that I want to do the same thing but do it in San Diego. And she messaged me back and she was like, of course, like that would be so great. You'd be so good at that, blah, blah, blah. So honestly, after that conversation with her, I decided, okay, I'm gonna start posting on TikTok. So I posted a couple videos on TikTok. I don't even really remember, actually that's a lie. I do remember what my first video was. I went to James Coffee in Little Italy, and they have this like recyclable coffee program where basically they give you a mason jar for your coffee, and then if you like James Coffee and you want to come back, you just bring that mason jar coffee cup back, and it's supposed to be, you know, this like recyclable program, so you're not wasting cups and plastic and all that stuff. So I thought that was really cool, and I was just starting to, you know, it was starting to open back up again. Okay, this little boy just walked past our house right now with his dog and literally went like this to my dogs who are watching him from the window, and then they started barking. So that's what that noise was. And I wish I got a video of that little boy because that was so funny. Anyway, well, I started doing videos like that, like the James Coffee thing. And I made probably like 3 or 4 videos. And then I went out to, because this was early 2021. So restaurants were slowly opening back up again, but only outside. And so I was going to coffee shops and like restaurants that had outdoor seating. And I remember I went to this Italian restaurant also in Little Italy actually. And it was called Allegra or Allegro, I can't remember, but it had like lemons on the ceiling and it was really cool. And my friend, one of my best friends, Morgan, actually suggested that we should go there. And we went and we just got like a couple appetizers and a couple drinks, and in my head I was like, oh my god, this place is so cool. It would probably do really well on TikTok. So I was kind of filming the whole thing. This was, I want to say like February or March of 2021. And so I filmed the whole thing, whatever. And I posted it, and I actually made a typo. We got mussels, and instead of spelling mussels like mussels the seafood that you eat, I spelled them like arm muscles. And at the time, the algorithm was like really big on picking up videos that were like getting a lot of comments and things like that. So people were liking my video, but what really sent it off the deep end, which is so funny, is that someone was like, LOL, you spelled muscles wrong. Like, and then everyone just kept putting these like muscle arm emojis on my video. And that is actually what caused it to go viral. But I didn't know this at the time, and I wasn't like checking TikTok every 5 seconds. So I made the video and I like put my phone away, closed the app. I didn't have notifications on TikTok. And I remember I was going to REI with Mike because we were going on a camping trip together that next week. We were actually going to Zion. And so we were at REI shopping. It had been a couple hours since I posted the video. And I pull out my phone and I open TikTok. And I think I had like 5,000 views on it, which doesn't seem like a lot. But when you're first starting out in social media, if you hit like 5,000 views and you only had like, I literally had 3 followers or something, that's such a big deal. And then that kept growing and growing and growing. And so I was checking like every 10, 15 minutes. And I think like a week or 2 later, I maybe had like 100,000 views. And I had always wanted to get into content creation. I just didn't really know how to. And I had a lot of, again, imposter syndrome and fear that I wasn't good enough or I couldn't do it for whatever reason, right? We all kind of battle those demons. But after I posted that video, I got this surge of confidence, like, oh, I can do this. I can for sure do this. And so after that, I just kept posting more and more and more on TikTok exclusively. I was kind of afraid of Instagram, to be honest, because Instagram is just very intimidating, I think, because it's a little bit more like aesthetic. Like, you have to have things, in my opinion, on Instagram, things are more buttoned up than they are on TikTok. I feel like on TikTok, I wasn't as scared to do it because a lot of my friends at the time weren't even on TikTok. So it was kind of like, I don't know. And not that you should be afraid that your friends are going to judge you, but with people who I've given advice to about starting content creation, I think the biggest hurdle to get over is that your friends are going to watch it and it's really awkward. I actually saw a video on TikTok on this the other day. It's like the most awkward and embarrassing moment is not being an influencer, but when you're becoming an influencer. And I think that's so true because on TikTok, no one was really there to like see my evolution of being like, hey guys, like check out this new coffee shop. But on Instagram, my friends were there when I had, you know, like 1,600 followers, just like my regular everyday following count. And then I started acting like I was an influencer because I had a following on TikTok. But honestly, I just kind of got over it. And anytime someone like, you know, was sassy or gave me shade or whatever, I was kind of like, hey, I have like, you know, I have 10,000 followers on TikTok, so I'm gonna do this on Instagram too. And that was kind of my rebuttal. But I almost felt like, and this isn't true for anyone that wants to be a content creator, I almost felt like I had to have a little bit more clout in order to have credibility, which is stupid. You can post whatever you want and your friends should just support you. But I know that that's easier said than done. So long story short, long story long, actually, it's a long-winded answer. I started because of an accidental video that went viral because I spelled a word wrong, which is great. We love when mistakes can bring us prosperity, I suppose. So that is basically how I got started. And then from there, you know, I just started posting more and more and more on TikTok and eventually on Instagram. And I've created, you know, the following and communities that I have now, which I'm super, super grateful for. And now I'm obviously venturing into YouTube, and my friend Devin and I are actually starting a podcast as well. So I'm really trying to fire at all cylinders here because I just love creating content. It's so fun. So that is how I got started into content creation. And if you're thinking about doing it, just do it. It is honestly so much easier than it used to be. I'll layer on to this question, even though no one asked this, but I actually do have a lot of background in content creation or influencer marketing and management. Because of my like corporate jobs over the years. So I used to work for an agency that worked on Procter & Gamble. So I did a lot of influencer partnerships with the Olympics, which was super cool. I did influencer campaigns with like CoverGirl and Tide and Herbal Essences and Head and Shoulders. And I worked with like crazy influencers like Tyler Oakley and Megan Batoon, and I helped launch a bunch of CoverGirls, which included Elon Musk's mom, Faye Musk, which is just wild to think about now. It's insane to think about, you know, what I used to do for my job. So I used to sign, you know, I used to create these huge contracts for influencers where they would be getting paid, you know, like $50,000 for one YouTube video. It was insane, but it was for these big brands. And it was honestly so much fun. So over the years, you know, I did that for those brands. And then I worked for Lyft a little bit actually on their marketing team. And I still worked a little bit in influencer marketing. And then I worked for another tech company, which I won't name. But I worked for these different companies over the years and worked on these influencer contracts. And so I got a really great understanding of kind of like the back end business of it too. And I think that's really helped me a lot as far as, you know, I actually don't reach out to brands a lot because I just simply don't have time because I have a full-time job still. But as far as like, you know, negotiating or writing emails back and forth or, you know, knowing kind of the value of what they're asking for, I think that's been really beneficial in my content creation career. Just because I have a little bit more of the business acumen just from being on the other side. So that's how I got into content creation. That's kind of the other side of the house where I kind of know how to quote unquote act like an influencer, I guess, or how to negotiate as an influencer, because I've seen really big shot people who usually have own teams and like a manager and an agent and all that jazz who do that for them, but they're really, really smart and capable. And that's very inspiring. So anyway, that's that. Second question, what brings you joy? Oh my gosh. This is such a great question. And I know this question really stemmed from Marie Kondo's kind of cleaning up and only keeping things in your life that bring you joy. So I'm trying to think of the things that I continuously try to keep in my life year over year because they bring me joy. I mean, this is so generic, but food brings me joy. Like, I love to eat. You will never catch me on a diet. Ever. Ever. One time, I remember when I was a kid, I told my dad that I wanted to be a vegetarian. That night for dinner, he made ribs for dinner, and I broke immediately. And he also did that on purpose. But anyway, nevertheless. And not that being a vegetarian or a vegan is a quote-unquote diet, because I know people are vegetarian or vegan for different reasons, whether it's like environmental impact or, you know, just like their own health and wellness, or if they're like allergic to things, whatever. I'm not judging that. I'm just saying you will never catch me on a diet. So yeah, food brings me joy. I would say traveling, again, another generic answer. Traveling brings me joy, specifically traveling that involves like adventure. I think what I've found over the years is that like I am not a relaxing vacation type of girl. I am a like, let's have an itinerary, let's go see shit, let's move type of person. So traveling brings me joy, but specifically like adventure, travel, or exploration type of travel. Other things that bring me joy that I think are a little bit more less broad, I would say, are like going to local restaurants and bakeries. I think that's a big reason why I love posting the type of content that I do so much, is because I love going to try a new restaurant or a local bakery or a local coffee shop and like showing that business support. But then also like I'm really trying hard and you know, sometimes it's just inevitable, like if you're running late or you need a simple solution, like you go to a place like a fast food place or Starbucks or places like that. But I've been trying so hard to not go to Starbucks and to not go to those types of places because I really want to support local. So that's something that brings me joy. Another thing that brings me joy is, I think, having the ability to volunteer brings me joy. I've had lots of different volunteer opportunities over the years, especially around mental health, especially when it comes to, you know, my community in San Diego. I've helped with like the San Diego Food Bank. I've helped with like NAMI, which is the National Alliance of Mental Illness. They have lots of different chapters. I volunteered at the Orange County one when I lived in Orange County. Those organizations are like super, super important to me. I am also volunteering pending approval from my boss at my current full-time job. I am going to be a volunteer camp counselor for a week at this camp where essentially all of the kids who are attending have lost someone in their immediate family. So whether that's a sibling or a parent or guardian, and they all come to this camp, and it's basically a camp that really just helps them be able to move forward and like work through grief. And having a direct experience of that, I'm really excited to have the opportunity of volunteering at this camp over the summer. It's for an entire week, and I'll get to work with kids. I think it's ages like 8 through 14 or 15 or something like that, but I'm really, really excited because I feel like over the years, unfortunately, a lot of people in my life have had other people that are close to them pass away, whether it's a family member or a friend. And I feel like I've been able to be there for them in a good way because we have this shared thing that really sucks. And we're in a club that no one wants to be a part of. That's what my dad always said to me, is that, you know, we've joined a club that no one wants to be in. And so that brings me joy, is helping other people figure out how to cope with grief and working through this, because I think that there are very few glimmers of hope in these situations that happen to us. But I feel like overall, these different opportunities that I've been given to help others, whether it's literally just talking to them on the phone or doing something like volunteering at this camp over the summer. And it's called Experience Camp, by the way, if anyone wants to look it up. I just think that really brings me joy because it makes me feel like I'm actually making a difference. And this world is so fucking bleak sometimes that it's like, please, Lord, like, let me help make a difference, even if it's, you know, even if it's small. But even small things can have a big impact sometimes. So that's another thing that brings me joy. My dogs bring me joy as much as they drive me crazy. They are so cuddly and sweet, and they just love to snuggle, and that makes me so, so happy. Living near the beach brings me joy. Going swimming in the ocean brings me joy. If you guys follow me on TikTok or Instagram, I kept trying to do this thing where I would swim in the ocean every day for 30 days. I've done it 2 years in a row now. The first year I did not make it very far at all. I think I got to like 12 or 13 days, and then I just kind of like gave up and forgot about it. This past summer, I got to 18, but then I sprained my ankle. It's like a whole saga, but I went swimming with Devin, my friend Devin, and it was like an early morning swim at like 6 a.m. and we went swimming, and my foot got like caught in between 2 rocks, and I sprained it, and I had this hematoma, which is basically like a huge amount of swelling of blood in any part of your body, but it turns into like this like bubble. It's like a sack of blood. It's so nasty, you guys. And it was on my ankle, and I went to the emergency room. It was so, oh my God. Anyway, long story short, I love swimming in the ocean, but that saga right there made me only be able to do 18 days. So summer 2024, it's gonna be the year when I finally do it, fingers crossed. So those are some things that bring me joy. Okay, next question. If I had to move out of San Diego but stay in the States, where would I move to and why? Ooh, that's a good one. Honestly, I feel like, okay, I'd probably have a couple of answers. New York, because I lived there when I was broke and in my early 20s, and I feel like it would be such a different experience for me to live there now, because I actually like am able to take care of myself and afford a place where I don't have to like flex the living room or live with like a bunch of roommates, which was really fun. But I just feel like I would actually be able to like afford and be able to do the things that I would want to do in the city. I would see a ton of theater. Every time I go visit, I see at least like 2 shows. So yeah, I think New York for those reasons. They have such a great like just like food and restaurant scene. And the culture there is just unlike anything else. So probably New York City again. Or I actually would love to live in Charleston if I had to move somewhere. I went there on a road trip like a couple years ago with one of my girlfriends, and my cousin actually lives in Charleston, and we stayed with him for just a couple of days, and we actually did a whole southern road trip, and we went to like Asheville, North Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, Nashville, Hilton Head. But we ended up in Charleston, and we were there for, I think, 3 days, maybe 3 nights, 4 days, but it was so much fun. The food was amazing. We were right by the water. We were just like everyone's just like out on their boat all day, and I just feel like there's a lot of really cool culture and like things to do in Charleston in a way that makes it similar to San Diego, but it's also kind of different and interesting to me in the fact that it's obviously in the South, and I've never lived in the South or experienced that kind of Southern culture before. So I just feel like it would be really fun. And let's see, one other place that I feel like I would thrive in, honestly, I would say probably like Portland or Seattle, somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. I feel like I just love it up there. Like, I love the Pacific Northwest, just all the trees, like the redwoods and the waterfalls, and I don't know. I just feel like I could really get into my hiking, camping girl era up there, and I would honestly love that very much. So those are 3 places that I would live. What did you want to be when you grew up? Oh my gosh, I actually wanted to be on Broadway. I grew up doing theater, which included acting and singing and dancing, and I actually got so far as to auditioning for my colleges that I wanted to go to. I ended up getting into 3 different schools, and then I got waitlisted at a couple more that I really wanted to go to, and then I got flat out rejected from some of the better ones. And so I wanted to be on Broadway, honestly, because I just love, and I still do love singing and acting and just like musical theater in general. I had an existential crisis though, and like pivoted away from pursuing musical theater in college. I ended up going to Syracuse University, and originally I was like, oh, maybe I'll try to get into their program after my freshman year and like transfer in, because I knew a couple of people who did some acting classes and then transferred in their sophomore year, but that would mean that I would have to stay a 5th year. And I ended up joining the Newhouse School, which is one of the top communication schools in the country. And I didn't know it at the time. I honestly had no idea about anything at Syracuse until I was like physically there. And I remember being on campus and people were talking about Newhouse. And I was like, what's Newhouse? And someone was like, oh, it's the top communication school in the country, blah, blah, blah. And it was people who were transferring in, but you had to get like a crazy GPA to transfer in. And so I partied a lot in college, I won't lie, but I also did work really hard all 4 years, but especially my freshman year, because I was like, okay, if that's what everyone's trying to get into and that's the best communication school in the country, like, I'm gonna get in. And worked my butt off. I got like a 3.85 or something my freshman year, and it was enough to transfer into Newhouse. And then I studied public relations there. Why was I talking about that? Oh, what did I want to be when I grew up? So anyway, wanted to be on Broadway, ended up in PR, and now I'm doing content creation, hopefully full-time at some point. So yeah, that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. What is the coolest trip you've ever been on? Oh my gosh. Honestly, I would have to say, oof. Okay, so I will say 2 different countries. One was Japan. I absolutely loved Japan. It was a trip that I did solo. I ended up meeting up with a friend there who was living there at the time teaching English. But for the most part, I was on my own. And I feel like going on a solo trip for the first time just is something that is so special and exciting. So, and also Japan is just absolutely wild, and they have great public transportation. Like, I could talk about those high-speed trains, like Shinkansen is how you say it, I think. Literally any day. I think we need those in California. We need those in the US, just in general. But I loved Japan. The culture, the public transportation, like I mentioned, just like the food was incredible. And, you know, all the cute little towns and everything that I visited too, and like just like the history there, going to like the Torii Gates in Kyoto and seeing all the different pagodas. It was just absolutely insane, and I loved it. My other answer would probably be Cuba, just because it's so out of pocket. And as soon as the ban was lifted to go to Cuba, my friend and I went. We just booked flights on like JetBlue, and I think our flights were like $250 round trip. This is when I lived in New York City, and we just straight up went to Cuba for a long weekend, and it was so much fun. We did like a cigar, we went on like a cigar rolling tour where they walk you through the steps on how to roll Cuban cigars. We went to this really fancy dinner place where Obama went, Barack and Michelle Obama went on their trip to Cuba like a month prior or something, so we thought that was really cool. The food was not the best, to be honest, but oh, we also got to go in like one of those old retro cars and do a tour around Cuba and like take cute pictures. And then we also went into the famous daiquiri bar that Ernest Hemingway was known to frequent, I guess. And all he did was drink daiquiris and write. And the day that we went, it was raining. And my friend and I went in there and we had like 6 daiquiris or something. We're like, oh, we're gonna be the next Ernest Hemingway. Well, we were not, obviously, because he's a legend and a famous writer. And I'm making my first YouTube video in my office on my crappy couch that's covered in dog hair. So we're not one and the same, but it was still pretty cool. So yeah, those are my 2 favorite trips that I've been on. Next question. How long have you and Mike been together? We have been together for 3.5 years. I think I already said that at the beginning of this video, but we've been together for 3.5 years, going on 4, honey, in 2024. And I love that man. He's very special and appreciates my weirdness and supports me, and I'm just obsessed with him. And this one says, what does your family dynamic look like? I have a pretty big family. I already shared, you know, I have mom, dad, sister, brother. I have lots and lots of cousins. My mom was one of 6 and my dad was one of 4. And my mom actually has like a Brady Bunch story, which is super cool. So this part isn't cool. Her dad passed away when she was 4 years old. So my mom has also dealt with her fair share of trauma as well, which is why I think she is so courageous and resilient. But my nan, my mom's mom, remarried. I forget how old my mom was. I want to say like maybe 7 or 8 or something. She was still pretty young. And it was my mom, my Aunt Kristen, and my Uncle John. So it was the 3 of them. And then my granddad, who married my nan, also had 3. My Aunt Tammy, my Aunt Nardi, my Uncle Eric. So they joined families, merged together, and they had a Brady Bunch situation. So 6 kids. And then on my dad's side, he was one of 4 brothers. So all boys on that side. And then I have a lot of cousins, just given the fact that I have 10, well, plus all their partners. So something like, you know, like 18 aunts and uncles or something like that. It's pretty crazy. I have a really big family. My family dynamic is that we are a huge family. We try to get together for most holidays, you know, over the years, and we've still done a pretty good job about that. My nan and granddad are in their mid-80s right now, so they are getting a lot older, but they still, honestly, they don't even seem like they're in their mid-80s, but they're pretty, I keep saying the word resilient, but I feel like they're very resilient too. They're like so present and really make time for all of us kids and grandkids, and I just love them. So overall, great family dynamic. I came from like a very great upbringing with my parents. Like, we didn't have a lot when we were growing up, but my parents did the best they could to give us everything that we have, and I think that's, you know, made me the person and made my sister the person that she is and that we are together today. So yeah, that's my family dynamic. Those are all the questions I had. I had a couple of more, but I feel like I'm repeating myself in some of the questions, so maybe I'll do another Q&A in the future. But that's a little bit about me. Thank you guys for watching this Q&A intro video. Again, I'm super excited to create more YouTube content for you guys, continue posting on Instagram and TikTok, of course. I love to post about travel and food and beauty and home life and everything. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. That sounds so weird to say out loud. And leave a comment if you want me to, you know, talk about or share anything in particular. I'm planning on doing more like travel itineraries and sharing more vlogs and things of that nature, but honestly, I'm open to pretty much anything because it's like a blank slate for the YouTube channel. So yeah, that's it, guys, and thanks for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next one.